Our first experience involved Jimmy's parents. Unfortunately, hospice really wasn't available when I lost my parents. And like many folks, there were a number of children involved, but not everyone lived locally. Many of us were still working, and we found the need for help in taking care of his parents. We actually moved them from South Dakota to Florida because the winters were becoming increasingly difficult for them. And Jimmy had a sister who was living in Edgewater, and she had a property adjacent to hers that was a rental, and so they moved in there. And she was actually more of the hands-on person, of course, because she was right there next door.
In a time like that, you know what's going on. I had gone through it before with some in-laws, and being able to have someone there to help, because I handled the whole situation a lot differently than some of my other family did. I wasn't able to sit there day in, day out and watch things progress by stages. Because of hospice, I was able to maintain a somewhat normal lifestyle. I was able to go to work and continue doing the things that I needed to do, take care of the other obligations, knowing that they were going to be taken care of with people who actually cared. They were not a number. They were not just a patient that, let's get this over with and get them out of here. It's people who really care, and that gives people like me the peace to go ahead and do the things that I need to do. No matter how you try to prepare for it, you're never quite ready for it. It did allow me to, when the time finally came for my mother, and that was my first real experience with hospice, as my mother was passing the last few days. There was a lot of tension among my family. I have sisters and brothers who we had all come together, and my sisters were there all of the time. And it took them a while to understand that just because I couldn't be there day in and day out didn't mean that I didn't care, that I didn't love just as much as they did. And it finally, we got that worked out. And they understood that I had to handle things a little differently than they did. And without having them there was a big help. It was a big help to me. But neither one of them were equipped for what was going to happen. No, they weren't any more equipped than I was. Knowing the different stages that a person goes through at that time, knowing what needs to be done, and that's where I felt that hospice was such a big help to them as well as to Nancy and myself, is because we knew that they were being taken good care of. And it takes more than just the love of the family to make them comfortable and make them pass that time. And that was the most important thing to me, is the care that hospice gave. And it allowed Nancy and myself to continue our work, things that we had to do, because once the event is over, life does go on. And you have obligations to the rest of your family as well as the loved one who's passing. And that was the biggest thing to me.
It's very hard. Some of us are better equipped at being hands-on when people are ill. I learned at a very young age that I'm not really very good at that. I have a lot of skills and abilities, but that's not where I'm the most effective. And Jimmy sort of mirrored some of that. And for us to be able to have someone that wasn't family, someone that thoroughly understood the process that we were all going through and made Jimmy's mother and dad so very comfortable. Jimmy's mother left the hospital and said, "Hospice is coming in to take care of me." And she was just thrilled that hospice was coming. The best part of that was that the people that came, we think of hospice, we think of a name, but hospice is people. These are the people that are good at those things that perhaps we're not that good at. And by knowing that there was someone there that was trained and someone that cared as much as these people did, it made it just so much easier for everyone. Not just us, not just his siblings and the nieces and nephews and grandchildren and that kind of thing. So it was a really, really amazing experience, despite the fact that we lost his mother and his dad within 7 weeks of one another. So we really never had the opportunity to even come up for air. And we initially tried to see if there was a place at the facility in Port Orange for Jimmy's dad when it became evident that his condition was as serious as it was. And of course, there was a big waiting list. So when the opportunity came to find out about the care center that was going in Edgewater, I made sure that I was there at the shovel-ready proceedings and became much more involved and learned a whole lot more about hospice and what it can do. One of Jimmy's sisters actually went to the care center with her daughter and went through the process of being trained as a result of the experience. Sadly, we have since lost her, but we were able to use the facility in Edgewater. She spent quite a bit of time there and was just absolutely, totally comfortable there. I think that the whole experience gave us the opportunity to step outside of ourselves just a little bit and have, as I said, that non-family person whose only concern at that point is our loved one. Or sometimes we might have stumbled upon ourselves a little bit and maybe lost sight of that from time to time. Not deliberately, of course, but simply because no one deals with death and impending death the same way. We all deal with it differently. And your tendency is to expect everyone else to feel what you're feeling and to behave the way you're feeling. And that's just not the reality. So it can create some very difficult times at a time when you don't need any more stress. So I really think it was a huge benefit to us, and I know it was to your parents.
Absolutely. None of us really have a medical background, and having them at home were my experience in the past with other situations. Nobody there knew what to do, and it was extremely hard on them. But in this particular case with my mom and with my dad, when his time came, we weren't able to get either one of them into a facility, but they were able to be at home. And having the person with the medical experience, knowing exactly what needed to be done, and being able to explain to us how things were proceeding. When the time came, she knew exactly what was going on and prepared everyone for it. And I think that was such a big, big help.
And I think both of them were really very happy to be able to stay in their own home as opposed to going someplace else. Where Jimmy's sister, she had no qualms whatsoever about going to the care center.
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, she requested, she had spent some time at the care center and then was sent home. But she asked to go back because she knew that her time was getting near. and that's where she wanted to be. Well, it's not a quick process in most cases. It lingers on, it seems like it's a lifetime. And it gives the family members a chance to catch a breather. We can go and do the normal day-to-day activities and come back and spend time without having to worry that, you know, I need to be here, but I need to be with them, but I also have other things that I have to take care of also. And it gives you the ability to do that.
Particularly for his brother and sister who didn't live locally. The one twin came from New York and just kind of put her life on hold, but the other two didn't have that flexibility, so they came, they spent time. But when they left knowing how well they were being taken care of. And I think it was a tremendous relief for them because, of course, they wanted to be here as well, but couldn't. And so you get caught in that awful tug of war, and you end up not being happy. If you're here, you're worried about there. If you're there, you're worried about here. And having hospice there as the point man really, I know, made it easier for the two of them, even as difficult as it was.
Say, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't hesitate to call hospice in.
It's not a sign of weakness.
Oh, no.
Not at all. It's a sign that you really care.
Exactly.
That's your uppermost concern.